I'm Luke Summerhays, and I love Applin. In almost all mythologies, serpentine creatures, be they snakes, dragons, wyverns or worms, are among the most powerful. For a long period in English literature, the words serpent and dragon were interchangeable. The serpent was the most terrible creature, both in power and in wickedness, owing in part to its role in the original sin. In Eastern mythology too, serpents are pretenders to the powerful dragons. In Applin, Pokemon unites the serpent, or if you like, dragon, with the fruit it used to tempt mankind into the fall. As a lad with a little bit of Catholicism in my upbringing, Applin feels like it is rich with dark and arcane imagery. This makes it doubly amusing that the monster is actually entirely cute and wholesome. Applin is a tiny little dragon, most of whose body is contained in an apple. 2 eyes resembling leaves protrude from the top, and a tail drags out the back. But otherwise, the appearance is simply that of a shiny, delicious apple. There is a real-life caterpillar, that of the codling moth, which burrows its way into an apple in order to gestate. Pokemon Sword says, of Applin, "It spends its entire life inside an apple. It hides from its natural enemies, bird Pokemon, by pretending it's just an apple and nothing more." In reality, codling moths are pests and a real danger to crops of fruits. But in the Pokemon world, Applin is pretty well liked. A young lad in Hammerlock will tell you that in Galar, it is traditional to give an Applin to someone you love. As well as a cute in-game interaction, when one gives him an Applin, he starts to give it to his crush, before deciding that it isn't real if he didn't catch it himself, and it leads to them both confessing their feelings. This also led to a real-world story, which blew up on Reddit, in which a Redditor gifted his fiancée a shiny Applin. Shiny Applin, like Wooloo's Black Sheep variant, absolutely nails it. Instead of a red apple, we get a green one. Pokemon Shield's Pokedex tells us, "As soon as it's born, it burrows into an apple. Not only does the apple serve as its food source, but the flavor of the fruit determines its evolution." Indeed, in Pokemon Sword, one can find a tart apple and use it to evolve Applin into Flapple. The skin of Flapple's apple folds out, forming 2 wings and an arching neck. It's a cool little design, and certainly the most dragon-like of Applin's forms. Sword tells us, "It ate a sour apple, and that induced its evolution. In its cheeks, it stores an acid capable of causing chemical burns." While Shield says, "It flies on wings of apple skin, and spits a powerful acid. It can also change its shape into that of an apple." My first thought was the same as that of many fans. Flapple resembles a Bakugan, the range of toys from the late noughties, which were little plastic balls which unfold into monsters when rolled. I was mostly a little too old to climb on the Bakugan train, although my brother was into them. My main memory of Bakugan comes from working in a supermarket. A lady came to me and asked where bouquet garni, the little bags of herbs for soups or casseroles, were kept. I was unfamiliar with the term, and led her to the toy aisle and the little mechanical dragons. She was, unsurprisingly, confused. Flapple has a signature move, Grav Apple. This move alludes to Sir Isaac Newton, the physicist who first codified the rules of gravity and momentum as we understand them. Apocryphally, his theories first came to him when an apple fell from a tree under which he sat. A Gigantamax version of Flapple can be encountered in raid battles. In this form, it has grown a new apple, overflowing with sticky, juicy nectar. It resembles some kind of caramel apple, or an animal enjoying a hot bath. Sword's Pokedex tells us, "Under the influence of Gigantamax energy, It produces much more sweet nectar, and its shape has changed to resemble a giant apple. While Pokemon Shield tells us, if it stretches its neck, the strong aroma of its nectar pours out. The scent is so sickeningly sweet that one whiff makes other Pokemon faint. Flapple is a speedy Pokemon with powerful attack stats, but very low HP and defense. Alternatively, Applin can go the other way. In Pokemon Shield, one can obtain the Sweet Apple and evolve Applin into Appletun. Pokemon Sword explains, telling us, eating a sweet apple caused its evolution. A nectarous scent wafts from its body, luring in the bug Pokemon it preys on. Appletun is a big, cute, quadrupedal dinosaur of a Pokemon. It has a lovable, sleepy vibe, with drooping ears and a face covered by an apple skin. On its big, humped back is a crust like an apple pie. Pokemon Shield's Pokedex tells us, its body is covered in sweet nectar, and the skin on its back is especially yummy. Children used to have it as a snack. This is either cute and charming, or incredibly gross, depending on how much one does or doesn't think about it. On the one hand, a cute dragon friend from whom one can receive infinite apple pie crusts. On the other, eating old flakes of back skin. Like Flapple, Appletun has a Gigantamax form. In fact, very much like Flapple. Visually, the two have exactly the same Gigantamax form. Pokemon Sword tells us, it blasts its opponents with massive amounts of sweet, sticky nectar, drowning them under the deluge. While Pokemon Shield says, due to Gigantamax energy, this Pokemon's nectar has thickened. The increased viscosity lets the nectar absorb more damage than before. Unlike the fast, attacking glass cannon that was Flapple, Appletun is a slow, tanky Pokemon. Friend of the show and Patreon supporter Tosuke Takahashi got in touch with this to say, Applin, and in turn, Appletun, are quickly becoming some of my favourite Pokemon of Galar. Apart from them being small enough to be portable, the cleverness in their designs makes them staples in my game. I also like that I was able to exchange an Applin with my girlfriend, with our respective game-exclusive apples, to recreate the in-game scene, which gives even more kudos to the developers. Applin is a Pokemon which seems quite silly at first glance, but which draws inspiration from several interesting sources. All three Pokemon in this family are cute, they have fun lore, and the two evolutions are both viable battling monsters, in different and exciting ways. Music for Luke Loves Pokemon is by Jonathan Cromie. Artwork for the show is by Katie Groves. If you enjoyed this podcast and you want to help me be able to keep hosting them online, please consider supporting the show at patreon.com/LukeLovesPKMN. Alternatively, get in touch about the next two upcoming monsters, Silicobra and Cramorant. I'd love to hear from you about those or any monster, so please contact me on Twitter or Facebook at LukeLovesPKMN. I love Applin, and remember, I love you too.